the the conversation twisting a little bit to dollars and of inflation, essentially the cost of things moving upward so much. We are coming close to the months that matter for the COLA adjustment, the cost of living adjustment, effectively the pay raise for the various benefits, including Social Security stuff. Now, VA doesn't administer their own COLA for disability compensation. They adopt the COLA figures from Social Security. Every year, Congress has to approve the VA to be able to mirror that cost of living adjustment from Social Security. That's happened several months ago, where it's going to happen again this year. It always does. Right now, the projection for COLA, although we're not in the months that matter yet, but it's a trend. The trend we're seeing has been upward since January, in which it was in the 1% projected range, to now here in May of 2024, utilizing last month numbers, because that's what was released here in May. So for April, is a 3.2% adjustment for disability compensation, Social Security, dependency indemnity compensation, and other things that are affected by that federal COLA, cost of living adjustment. So 3.2%. Who knows where it's going to be? We utilize the third quarter of the calendar year. It's the fourth quarter of the fiscal year. So July, August, September are the actual numbers for CPI-W that will be utilized in order to calculate the true COLA, which will be released mid-October. So there are adjustments to this driving up the amount to try to, although it doesn't, keep pace with inflation. So just another kind of important piece to throw out there. Again, we utilize CPI-W. That's what what Social Security uses, and then VA mirrors it. There has been pieces of legislation introduced on both the House and the Senate regarding a change to utilize, instead of CPI-W, to utilize the CPI-E, which is the Consumer Price Index for elderly, because more elderly people are utilizing Social Security and their spending habits are different than the 20-year-old who's out buying a 72-inch screen TV. They instead are paying money on medical expenses and that type of stuff. So those probably aren't going to pass, but the idea is that there are ideas floating around to change how it's calculated to actually increase it. If we were to utilize, and I'm going to want your guys' thoughts on this, and I know you don't have all the data, but just the loose idea. If we were to utilize CPI-E instead of CPI-W and looked back over the last 20 years or so, it would have on average per year increased at about 0.25%. Now, much like compounded interest, the same applies, right? If you had 0.25% back 20 years ago higher, well, then your next 0.25% would be actually a little more than 0.25%, right? Because it's on a higher amount. So the line would arc upward a little quicker. What are your guys' thoughts on changing how COLA is calculated specifically for either VA compensation by itself or Social Security and VA? I'd love to hear your thoughts, Randy.
Well, I've never understood why they only take a snapshot of 3 months for some of these calculations. Some folks have argued, hey, this is advantageous for the recipient because, these are the money, the money months where people are out and about and there's a little bit more economic activity. I don't know if I buy that, especially in this weird post-COVID world that we're in. I have also never understood why, the VA, which is a fairly well-funded, cabinet level organization, has to rely on the Social Security Administration for some of this data. If Randy was king for a day, I would try to find or data mine and get information on what it's really costing veterans to live and how unique expenses that veterans face are fluctuating with inflation, and then try to give a little better hack at it than just, hey, I want to borrow, some metrics from Social Security Administration. Now I understand CPI-W, CPI-E, they're two different things and they're done for a reason. But for an organization as sophisticated as the VA, I've never understood why they couldn't come up with their own metric that really dials in and says, hey, this is what we think we need to true up to make your benefit the same this coming year due to inflation as it was this current year. And folks, theoretically, nobody's winning off of this. This is just to keep up with inflation. So I don't think that that's an unreasonable perspective. Chris, your thoughts?
Give me the E, baby. Let's go. Especially somebody that's not that far away from qualifying for Social Security. But look, it's these things are really hard, because that there are some people who have given a lot more than others, and I would love to see them get more. But that's hard at scale. So I always default to assuming that if we're taking care of those folks, more is better, right? So, and then I default to kind of the same position as Randy, which is so much of this stuff doesn't seem like it makes sense because it's so much money that they couldn't. Why aren't they kind of thinking about it and they're looking at it specific to the veterans, which is obviously a different subset. Yes, we have young and old veterans, but it is a different subset because of what they did early in life. That it would be great to really understand that pool of veterans and dissect that a little bit better to make sure that they're taking care of the ones who need it the most. But I know that that's just kind of a pipe dream when you get up to the scale that the VA serves.
Totally. Here's an interesting thing I'm going to throw out to you guys. So we know that for VA compensation, disability compensation, dependency indemnity compensation, pension, pension is worked on the poverty level line, but for the compensation ones, we utilize the Social Security's determination of the COLA, the cost of living adjustment. However, the VA administers their own COLA for VRNE and for Chapter 35. And last year, it went into effect in October, and it was, I don't remember the number off the top of my head. It was 5 point something percent, where the actual COLA that was realized on the compensations were at 3.2. So kind of just a little interesting tidbit there. I'm not sure how long it's been in effect like that. I've never went back to try to figure it out. But I would love to see the VA be able to utilize its own capabilities to determine the COLA for disability compensation, dependency indemnity compensation, so forth, because I could guarantee that it won't be less than what Social Security's is. So we could only probably win. With that, we'll go ahead and end it there. Thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.